It's Tuesday, September 5. In the headlines, more back-to-school traffic next week. In business news, health brands Jamaica acquired. Regionally, in St. Kitts and Nevis, new nursing council ends discriminatory practice. Internationally, Putin says no grain deal. And in sports, preparations for CONCACAF Nations League games. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Commuters will experience the full extent of the expected back-to-school traffic next Monday. That's the word from Assistant Commissioner of Police Gary McKenzie, head of the Public Safety Traffic Enforcement Branch. ACP McKenzie said the first day of schools being reopened across the island has been fairly smooth. He says the police have been out on all the various roadways across the country, and certainly, as it relates to the corporate area and the Kingston metropolitan region, they're pleased with what they're seeing so far. ACP McKenzie also reminded motorists to slow down when approaching school zones. In addition, the PSTEB head encouraged parents and guardians whose children are traveling independently to and from school for the first time to equip them with the necessary information to prevent them from getting lost. 315 buses, including the 15 newly arrived units, will be on the road as of this week. Transport Minister Daryl Vaz says most of the buses will be deployed from the JUTC's Portmore depot, with the rest to be coming from the Spanish Town and Rockfort depot. He says there will be 120 buses coming from Portmore, including 20 of the new units, 99 from Spanish Town and 96 from Rockfort in East Kingston. He notes that conditions are not yet at optimum, but vowed to, quote, improve the efficiency and wait time, which has definitely been high on the misery index for the traveling public, end quote. With massive government investments in irrigation systems for farmers, Jamaica's agriculture sector seems poised for greater development and growth. The Agriculture Minister is seeking investors both locally and overseas, and several initiatives have been established to sweeten the deal. We hear more in this JIS feature on investing in agriculture.
Agriculture is an important economic sector, and investing in it may be a wise financial move that gives investors the chance to diversify their portfolios and earn significant returns. So, if you're looking for investment opportunities, why not consider agriculture?
Jamaica has about 200,000 hectares of land that we consider arable, meaning land that we can farm. We only need to farm about 100,000 of that in order to produce sufficiently all the staples that we need, all the protein that we need, all the vegetables and fruits that we need. Of that 200,000 arable land that we have, currently we are only farming about 31,000 hectares that is irrigated. So the provision of reliable irrigation, water, to those acreages is a big challenge. So we have about 15% of our total arable land irrigated. So if we're serious about expanding agricultural output, investments have to be made in agricultural infrastructure, particularly irrigation. So I'm pleased to say today that we have the Essex Valley and the Southern Plains irrigation projects, which are ongoing. And those two projects will bring about 5,200 hectares of land under irrigation. That will move us up to about 18% of our arable land irrigated.
We're introducing a major project that's coming for Jamaica. It's called the Southern Plain Agricultural Development Project. It involves over 2,000 acres of land that will be available to investors across a wide range of crops. We are actually looking to get more Jamaicans involved into agriculture. Food security is very important, and we're also trying to build our export markets as well. We are seeking investors both locally and overseas to enter into current agricultural production and even larger scale production. We have acreages starting from 5 acres up to as high as 300 acres that we're packaging to have investors engage in a wide range of crops: vegetables, root crops, and orchard crops. A good way to start is reaching out to AgroInvest. Whether you reach out on our website, that's a great way to connect with us. From there, we can help you to build a plan around the ideas that you have for getting involved in agriculture. We have a team involved in business development. We have technical persons who are in charge of the agri-parks. And we have a market development team which will be rolling out shortly to provide linkages with persons on the agri-park, with buyers locally and in the export markets. Already we have the agri-parks. The major ones in that area are Amity Hall, Spring Plain, and Ebony Park. This development comprises what we call Ebony 2, which is going to be in St. Catherine, and that will be next to Bridgepen, and there will be Parnassus in Clarendon.
The next one is going to be the Pedro Plains, and that is going to move us steadily towards our goal of irrigating our arable lands.
AgroInvest is making a strong thrust to attract investors to the agriculture sector. And so we're ready to engage persons. We can connect you with financing, we can help you with business planning, and we can help you with technical support.
Effective immediately, the main road linking Palmer's Cross to Maypen through the community of Paisley, Clarendon, is closed. The corridor has been closed by the National Works Agency due to failure in the approach road to the bridge at Paisley. Manager of Communication and Customer Services at the NWA, Stephen Shaw, says that the corridor had been reduced to single-lane traffic, but a recent inspection has led to the decision to close the corridor. A hole has developed in the approach, which requires the embankment forming the road be excavated to determine the cause of the problem. Resulting from the closure of the road, motorists wishing to travel from the direction of Palmer's Cross to Maypen are being advised to use the route through Hazard Drive and Trenton Road, which leads into Maypen. The reverse obtains for persons traveling from the direction of Maypen towards Palmer Cross. The People's National Party's Dennis Gordon, councillor for the Maxfield Division, was unanimously elected by the executive as the new chairman of East Central St. Andrew constituency on Sunday. His election to the post follows the official send-off for Dr. Peter Phillips in the constituency, which he has anchored for the past 29 years. Many of his colleagues from both Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean saluted him in tribute for making significant contributions and strides in the development of not only the constituency but the nation at large. In May, the former leader of the opposition signaled his intention to vacate the seat by the next general election and handed over the party's political leadership of the constituency to Mr. Gordon during a ceremony at the Norman Manley High School. It should be noted that Mr. Gordon can only become a Member of Parliament when the constituency goes to the polls in either a by-election or general election. In this week's Living Healthy report, we take a look at the significance of preserving the effectiveness of antibiotics. Dr. Hanan Balki explains on the WHO's Science in 5 program.
What is at risk? Why has WHO been advising countries and people to use antibiotics rationally?
Good afternoon, Vismita. It's great to be back with you on Science in 5. I think if we just go back in history a little bit, in 1928, penicillin was discovered, which is the first antibiotic. So we're talking over 8 decades now of the first antibiotic. The problem is that these antibiotics were used to kill bacteria that cause disease to humans. However, these bacteria are smart enough that they find ways to escape the effect of the antibiotics because they want to survive. Now, so that's one part of the puzzle. The second part of the puzzle is that the antibiotics are critical for human health and also for animal health. So the modern medicine that we have the privilege of experience today cannot continue without effective antibiotics.
So Hanan, you're actually describing an apocalyptic scenario almost where people may not have the protection of antibiotics even in common injuries if we don't preserve their efficacy. Talk to us about the top 3 things that each of us can do to help that.
So I think the first thing that people can do is try to take antibiotics only when prescribed by your physician or your healthcare provider. That's the first thing. The second thing is complete the antibiotic course based on the instructions given by the clinician. And the third thing is make sure that you're not sharing your antibiotic with family or friends because it really needs to be given based on guidance, based on the specific signs and symptoms that each individual is experiencing. Certain viral infections, they really do not require antibiotics. When you do not complete your course of antibiotics, knowing that we have bacteria that live on our skin, live in our gastrointestinal system, so exposing these bacteria to inefficient doses or incomplete doses of antibiotics only teases the bacteria in a way, and it allows it to develop mechanisms to become irresponsive to these antibiotics. So the risk is that we will start creating superbugs. We will allow for opportunities for these bacteria to become even stronger. And then when the time comes where we really need to treat them, we won't have the effective antibiotics to do so.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Trinidad and Tobago conglomerate Agostinis Limited has completed the acquisition of pharmaceutical distribution and consumer brand company Health Brands Limited in Jamaica. The deal, funded by Scotiabank, was finalized on August 3. Founded in 1975, Health Brands was formerly a subsidiary of Grace Kennedy Group, operating then under the name MediGrace. Agostinis, a products and service provider since 1925, currently operates in 6 regional markets, exports to 10 countries, and has more than 3,000 employees. They say the acquisition of Health Brands Jamaica was in line with the company's core business operation and its expansion objectives. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, September 4, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.52. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.76. The pound sterling traded for $197.21, and the euro sold for $169.57. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by over 938 points. The junior market index advanced by over 17 points. The combined market index declined by over 715 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by over 2,686 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 102 stocks, of which 40 advanced, 43 declined, and 19 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Viable Preference, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 1 million units, Regency Petroleum Company Limited with over 800,000 units, and JMMB Group Limited 7.50% with over 700,000 units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calista Macro Index Fund posted over 1,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Epley Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund was a volume leader with 200 shares. They were followed by Emera Deposit Receipts, which traded 50 shares. In regional business, despite an improved service, enhanced range of products, and better connectivity, Flow Trinidad is promising that there is no price increase on the horizon. Sunil Lala has the details.
Flow Trinidad's Vice President and General Manager Simone Martin-Shulgan is making a promise to customers.
Price increases, etc., that is behind us. It's literally now you can internet more, watch more, and there's no increase in price. All we're trying to do is make sure that customers feel that they are getting value for their money. And the first thing we do to address that is make sure that the service is working.
She said the company has been making strides to improve the quality of service rendered to its customers and ensures that all complaints, which come from mostly residential customers, are taken into consideration.
If you think about it, if your Wi-Fi is not working, the kids aren't going to be happy. You would have made plans to come home and things aren't where you expected. And we really started to take that feedback on and mapped out a plan, how do we get better? And we know we had to start first and foremost with the network.
And Flow's Director of Technical Operations, Robindranath Maharaj, is assuring customers of a seamless Wi-Fi experience.
A lot of our customers have intermittent connectivity issues, which we could use mesh Wi-Fi that talks directly to our modem to give us a seamlessly connected network at the home.
Mrs. Martin-Shulgan said the company has had to adjust over the years with the increasing use of streaming services, but she said this hasn't impacted its operations.
Now customers are using connectivity for a lot more. So where you would have your traditional cable box, you can now watch TV on your phone or your tablet. So we now have to figure out how do we stay true to traditional video consumption and how do we also now know that people are watching Netflix, YouTube.
She said Flow continues to ensure its customers get the best possible service and diversifying that need.
And then too, in terms of like Hub TV, everybody's looking for some way to de-stress, something to watch, and we all know people have different tastes. Dad might be into crime, mom wants to watch, a romantic comedy. So all of this just saying, no matter who you are, we have something for everybody.
Questioned as to whether Flow intends to diversify its product into the telecommunications field.
Not at this current moment in time. We want to make sure that we get our core product and our core business right. And I think we have some, how do I say this? We've just started. And I think for us, we keep putting the right foot forward and learning as we go. And I think, who knows?
In international business, China is set to launch a new state-backed investment fund that aims to raise about $40 billion for its semiconductor sector as the country ramps up efforts to catch up with the US and other rivals.
It aims to raise about $40 billion as Beijing tries to catch up with the US and other rivals. It far outweighs the targets set by two other similar projects over the last 10 years. The sources said one main area of investment will be equipment for chip manufacturing. President Xi Jinping has long said China needs to be self-sufficient in semiconductors. That need has become more important after Washington imposed a series of export control measures over the last couple of years. The US said it did this over fears Beijing could use advanced chips to improve its military capabilities. Last year, the US rolled out a sanctions package that cut China's access to advanced chip-making equipment. Its allies, Japan and the Netherlands, have since taken similar steps. The sources said China's new fund was approved by authorities in recent months. Chinese authorities did not immediately respond to Reuters' requests for comment.
In market data for oil prices dipped as fresh data added to gloom over the state of China's post-pandemic recovery, although expectations of an extension in supply cuts by leading OPEC Plus producers limited losses. Brent crude futures were down 51 cents at $88.49. while West Texas Intermediate crude edged 14 cents lower to $85.41 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, in St. Kitts and Nevis, Prime Minister and Minister of Health Dr. Terence Drew has announced that a discriminatory practice against nurses in the country who studied in Cuba has officially ended. SKN Newsline has the details.
Speaking to the St. Kitts and Nevis news media at his August roundtable conversation, Dr. Drew said the new Nursing Council had reversed the policy after reviewing the matter.
For the last decade or so, the nurses who studied in Cuba were denied the opportunity to become registered nurses. When you had nurses from Cuba with the same degree who were accepted as registered nurses here in St. Kitts and Nevis, while they were accepted, our own citizens who studied in Cuba were not accepted. And so recently, the Nursing Council, the new Nursing Council, took a look at the matter and they deemed that it was the right thing to get the Cuban, our citizens who graduated from the nursing programs in Cuba to be registered nurses. So I want to congratulate all the nurses thus far who have been given their rightful place in the health sector and are now registered nurses here in St. Kitts and Nevis. That injustice went on for too long. And I said that if that had not been corrected, the nurses were in a position, and even the government, to bring in a class action suit against the Nursing Council for discrimination. One group that has the exact same degree and qualifications are accepted and registered, while the other group is being told that they cannot be registered. And so that injustice over the last decade has been corrected.
While government is not obligated to compensate the affected nurses, Prime Minister Drew said government should have a look at the matter, as each of the nurses would have lost thousands of dollars over the last decade from the discriminatory practice. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs Kirk Humphrey says initiatives that promote healthy living in Barbados are extremely important at this time, especially given the threat of NCDs and the aging nature of society. He made the comments as he toured several exhibits at the Healthy Living Expo.
The reality for Barbados is that we have an aging society, but unfortunately we also have a very unhealthy society. As the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, we thought that this would promote healthy living, which in essence becomes healthy aging. It's something that we would want to support. Unlike other countries that are aging, Barbados is aging, but the level of NCDs is disproportionate when compared to other countries. So I think it's important that we start having a conversation about not only exercise, but the things that we put into our bodies, the foods that we eat, the drinks we consume, and so on. So that is why we are here supporting this. In Barbados, a number of the older persons are dealing with issues pertaining to dementia. I also find it interesting that persons look at people and make certain judgments. You know, if somebody they think is overweight, that they think they have associated health issues. But there are a number of persons who do not look overweight who also have health issues. We have to be conscious about, especially in the black community, to be honest, the level of diabetes, the high blood pressure issues, and so on. So that is why we're here, that is why we're supporting this. I would encourage all Barbadians to come out and to participate, to see what options are available.
In Trinidad and Tobago, Minister of Youth Development and National Service Foster Cummings is committing to introduce 1,500 new farmers by 2025 and said they are well on the way to doing so. Sunil Lala has the details.
Speaking at an orientation program on Monday, Minister Foster Cummings said his ministry's youth and agriculture programs continue to attract young people to the sector. Together with the Youth Agriculture Homestead Program, YAP, the Youth Shade House Project and the Youth Aquaculture Project, the minister said enrollment numbers are encouraging.
Not too far from now, we will enroll another 200 young persons in the part-time program. When you add that to what we're doing with UWI in terms of the Shade House program, which will graduate 300 in 3 years, and the aquaponic program, which will also graduate 100 per annum, you can see that we are well on our way to introducing 1,500 new farmers by 2025.
And Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, Avinash Singh, said these programs continue to ensure that the issue of the aging farming population is taken care of.
The statistics are undeniable. And according to the Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, the average age of farmers in many Caribbean countries has been steadily rising, with many farmers well into their 60s and 70s. Globally, the situation is no different.
And Dean of the Faculty of Food and Agriculture at the UWI, Professor Mark Woodivera, believes such initiatives would assist this country to meet its CARICOM commitment to reduce the food import bill by 25% by 2025.
And this aligns very well with the Trinidad and Tobago's post-COVID-19 pandemic roadmap, emphasizing the need to bolster the agricultural sector to reduce dependence on unreliable and costly food imports.
The orientation program saw over 300 persons being given the opportunity to join the youth and agriculture programs. Sonolala, TTT News.
In international news, talks between Russia's President Vladimir Putin and Turkey's President Erdogan to revive the Black Sea grain deal have failed to reach a breakthrough. More from Al Jazeera.
The Turkish president arrived in the coastal city of Sochi with high expectations. He came with a mission to convince Vladimir Putin to renew the UN-brokered Black Sea grain initiative that the Russian president withdrew from in July. Following a 3-hour meeting, little progress was achieved.
The West deceived Russia about the humanitarian nature of the grain deal. We do not tolerate it anymore.
Despite his strong words, his Turkish opposite maintained his optimism.
We believe that we will hopefully reach a solution that will meet expectations in a short time.
Half of Ukraine's grain exports crossed the Black Sea to nations around the world. But after July's attack on the Kerch Bridge linking Russia and Crimea, they stopped. President Putin says the agreement enriched Western businesses and promises made to exempt Russia exports from sanctions have been broken. President Putin insists that Russia is ready to return to this deal as long as the agreement is upheld in its entirety. That means the reconnection of Russia's agricultural bank to the SWIFT international banking system that was cut off by the EU last June as a result of Russia's so-called special military operation in Ukraine. Now, alternatives need to be explored to make this deal work.
It will be correct if Russia and Turkey, together maybe with Qatar, will agree on some independent financial scheme to realize this deal, because traditional payments via the Western banks will not be possible during this bilateral deal.
Turkey is the only NATO member country that still has a relationship with Russia following the war in Ukraine, a relationship that continues to be important for both sides. But much of the world will have to deal with the reality that the UN-brokered Black Sea Initiative could be a deal of the past and prepare for the consequences. Dorsa Jabari, Al Jazeera, Sochi.
In sports, the Jamaica Football Federation, JFF, says the playing surface at the National Stadium will be ready for the Reggae Boys CONCACAF Nations League games against Honduras and Haiti on Friday and Tuesday, respectively. Concerns were raised about the condition of the surface following 2 events hosted at the venue last month: the Independence Day Grand Gala celebration on August 6 and R&B artist Chris Brown's concert on August 27. JFF General Secretary Dennis Chung says the area was inspected last Friday. He told the Jamaica Observer, quote, "It is not 100%, but it is much improved over what we saw Friday, and they're working on it. It looks like it will be in good condition for the match on Friday," end quote. And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thanks for watching.